When we live by God's word, faith comes, and faith, which is knowing God, will override and neutralize any negative emotion that you have. When I was on a horse for one of the first times as an adult, we went to, you're like, where's this guy going? Like, what am I doing at church today, right? Our whole family booked a trail ride in like the foothills of Alberta when I used to live there. And it was like one of the first times that I've been on a horse before, but it's always been like led when I was really young and that kind of stuff. It was like one of my first times to be able to actually like be in control of my own horse. And so I got like the biggest horse. It was sweet, but also super terrifying. And this thing was like massive, like this. It was like this black beauty, man. It was huge. It was like over 2,000 pounds, I bet. It was massive. And so I get on, and I'm like, hey, like, you're trying to make a connection with this horse real quick, because you're like, hey, I'm your friend, man. You know what I mean? Like, we can make a partnership here kind of thing. And I started realizing that, I can kind of guide this horse around. It's super well trained. It backs up. It goes forward. It does everything you need to. And the trail ride that I was on was one of those ones that are a little more fun, because you don't have to follow like kind of like where the horses are just like butt to nose kind of thing, and they just all follow each other and you can't do anything. So I had like 3 minutes of practice, and I guess maybe this could be a character flaw within me, but like I get confident after 3 minutes. I'm like, I'm good. I'm awesome. Like, I've been on for 3 minutes, and I could own a horse. Like, I could break him in. I could do whatever. Like, I'm good to go. And so I'm like, my whole family's there, and they're like, where's Zach? And I'm like 10 feet off the beaten path over there in the bush. Like, hey, guys. I'm like trying to see. I'm taking the car out for a ride, seeing what this thing can handle kind of thing. And so I'm making my way back onto the path. And I don't know what this horse saw, okay? I really don't. But it saw something, and it was terrifying. And I don't know if it was a rodent or a mouse, or I don't even know. But this thing all of a sudden hit the brakes and like was backing up, and I have no control over it now. I'm sure many of you who know how to ride horses probably could have taken control. I did not. Probably took me about 30 seconds to realize, I still have control, and he's backing up because I got scared that he got scared, and now I'm pulling him back, and I don't know what's going on right now. And soon enough, I've just figured this thing out, and it was terrifying, man. Like, the power in this horse's chest, every breath it took, my like legs were spread and then back. Like, I was like, this thing is a beast, man. Like, I am so in awe of the fact that these horses, like, think about a life without horses. Like, our whole nation, our communities, our farmers, our work, everything has been where we are now because of the work of training these horses and doing jobs that we would have never been able to accomplish. And now, of course, we're into technology and new inventions that are taking the jobs away from the horses now. So now it's just fun to have a horse and ride it and go for a ride here and there. But it was amazing, like, wars have been won because of horses. There's been certain things that have happened in history, and they happened the way that they did simply because the horses made it possible. And I thought, man, this is crazy. And the fact that you can tame it and you can control it was unbelievable. And the more I thought about this, the more I started thinking about, again, the rabbit trails in my brain started going off about our emotions and our ability as human beings, as Christians, to control how we react to certain scenarios that come up. Certain circumstances that we might face in our world and in what we do. Your life is made either increasingly better because of your reaction to certain circumstances, or increasingly worse. With a lot of the circumstances that we have, yes, sometimes we can't control the circumstances that we go through. However, we can control our reaction to that circumstance in our life. And that reaction sometimes gets you off the path that God has for you, or gets you right back on and running. And you start to experience things based on how these circumstances, how you react to these circumstances and emotions. It gets us hooked on this feeling all the time that maybe we shouldn't be in the moment that we're in. See, when God created the earth, when God created each and every one of us, at the end of his 7 days, he said, and behold, it was good. That means the emotions that he put inside of us, behold, it was good. Emotions are amazing. When you go through life, some of your best memories are based on this deep, intense feeling of love that you have, or joy, and all of these different emotions that allow you to really just accept life for what it is. Sadness sometimes. Some of my best memories and closest connections with friends actually happened around sadness. Even though it wasn't something that we were in and we stuck in the entire time. But when you allow yourself to feel the emotions of life, but not allow it to control where you're going, life is such a beautiful thing. And the more that we go through this, we realize that there's a lot of circumstantial emotions. People think that, oh, well, the emotions I feel today will be based on the circumstances. If they're negative circumstances, then I'm probably going to feel negative emotions. But if they're positive circumstances, then my emotions will be at an all-time high, and it will be awesome. If you're in the first boat of this, your life is going to be a constant up and down roller coaster of not knowing what you're doing, where you're going, how to handle life, because you're allowing life to steer you. And when you allow life to steer you, now life's got the reins. They got the bit in your mouth, and they're like, yeah, we're going to go over here for a bit. We're going to leave you in the dumps for a bit too, see if you can handle this. Now we're going to pull you out, make you think life's all good, and then drive you back down into there. It's just the side where these circumstances, we believe that circumstances are the thing that makes us happy in life, makes us joyful, and we couldn't be further from the truth. God created us with emotions, and I am so glad that he did. I'm so glad with the emotions that I feel. It's nice to feel all the emotions when they're healthily decided upon and not just running rampant within your head. See, even as kids, as parents, generally, you are teaching your kid to handle what they go through in life. You're teaching them that just because a circumstance might not be ideal for them doesn't justify some meltdown where they're laying in Superstore smacking the ground screaming, and you're like, I don't know if you're the parent that just drags them and just keeps walking, or if you're the one that stops, whatever it is. But we're teaching these kids how to handle life and how to react emotionally and properly to what they go through. And maybe we're not adults anymore that find ourselves kicking and screaming on the Superstore, thank goodness. But we've handled it now where we can control our actions when we're emotional, but we still haven't controlled the mental side of what we think about, how we react, how we direct our life past this. We've never actually fully decided, no, I still got to figure out how I react to this and steer my life in a completely different way. And the more that you read the Bible, the more that you believe in God, the more that you get into his word, you read about Jesus. And there's one story that pops out to me all the time. And before I get to the verse, let me give some context. Jesus, this is right before he was going to get crucified, like a day, maybe two. And he's talking to his disciples. And Jesus knows that he's about to be taken away. His disciples are in the place now that they know that he's going to be taken away. And now they're freaking out, knowing that this God they've been following for the last however many years is about to die and be taken away from them. I'm not too sure if you've ever been around someone who's been in their last days but they're still with it and they're talking to you. When you know someone's time is limited, what they say holds so much value. You know they're not flippantly speaking anymore. You know they're not just making stuff up on the top of their head. They're in a spot where it's like, no, my words need to be something that I want to say. What I really want to say right now? And Jesus chose his words very, very cautiously in this moment, keeping in mind that he was completely just about to be crucified. In John 14, it says, do not let your heart be troubled. This is what Jesus says. And in the top, it says, Jesus comforts his disciples. Isn't that unbelievable? He's about to be the one to be ripped away, crucified, the worst death ever, and he's comforting his disciples. He says, do not let your heart be troubled. And in brackets, it says, afraid, cowardly. Believe confidently in God and trust in him. Have faith. Hold on to it. Rely on it. Keep going and believe also in me. The disciples were about to see Jesus be crucified and die. And on the night before the crucifixion, Jesus not only shows us his ability to control his emotions in a time that most of us would give everyone a free pass to have crazy emotions and act however they want because they're about to go through something so grueling. But he showed his disciples that no, yeah, he might have had thoughts where he was scared. He might have had thoughts where I don't know what's going on, but he didn't focus on that, and he continued to walk out his life in a way that was one of the best examples towards these disciples. And he just said, don't let your heart be troubled. When someone tells you that and you know what's coming up, like, how could you not at that point? But he said, don't let your heart be troubled. He comforted his disciples in the moment where he said, I want to show you how we can respond emotionally properly to situations. You can feel sad, you can feel mad, you can feel frustrated, you can have a test of patience sometimes, you can feel joy, you can feel love. But what we react to in our life dictates a lot of the time whether we're going to make it out of something or dive back into something that we feel like we can't handle. He knew the disciples wouldn't know what was going on. He knew that they were going to see something horrific. He knew that it would be incredibly hard to watch what was going to go down in the next couple days. Incredibly hard. But yet he still decided to say, do not let your heart be troubled. He didn't say, I'll make sure your heart isn't troubled. He said, you, don't let your heart be troubled. Jesus doesn't have control over what you do. But he does teach us how to live. See, emotions will make or break your life. They will. And it all comes down to whether you allow it or not. So many of us get hooked on a feeling. Hooked on a feeling. More often than not, it's a feeling that we shouldn't be hooked on. We all know that. But living a life based completely on your emotions is living a life without hope. When you live a life without hope, when you live a life without a confident expectation of good happening in your life, every problem that hits you feels like it's going to take you out. And for a life that will have ups and downs and will have some speed bumps that you have to go over, it's difficult. I saw an analogy recently, and I thought it was really cool. And this guy was just holding a bicycle tire. And he said the center of the bicycle tire is the hub, where all the spokes connect to. Every tire looks different, but the tires have stayed the same for many, 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 many years because they work. Now you have rubber on them, you have air in them to make the ride even nicer. But the hub, we make the hub so many different things. But the hub should be Jesus in our life. And when you have your hub, this thing at the center, the dead center of the wheel, all your spokes, your beliefs, your time, your memories, everything connects to your hub. And if Jesus isn't the center of your life, and that hub's moved off center, everyone knows that the wheel does not give you a soft ride. It'd actually probably break pretty quick after a while if the hub was off the center, because you'd be hitting, like you'd be going down and up and down and up. But when we realize that everything that we do in our life, when we can take that hub back to the center, then you realize you can go over divots in the road, you can go, maybe not through the potholes that we experienced in spring, but pretty close, okay? Like you can hit some speed bumps, you can slow down, but you're still good. It's like driving a car that doesn't have that shimmy. I bet you 60% of us have that shimmy right now. It's just one of those things like, again, really? I just got this fixed. But that shimmy is annoying after a while. But when the hub is perfectly aligned in the center and everything else in that car is aligned, you can go through things on the road. You can hit things. You can maybe hit the odd pothole here and there. You can go over a speed bump. And yeah, you're still experiencing the bump, but it's so diminished, it's unreal. And that's because the hub is in the center. And if you make Jesus the center of your entire world, everything that you do, I'm not saying you got to read the Bible for 20 hours a day and sleep for 4. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that you get to know him so well that that's the first thought that comes to your mind, that's when you're in the middle of a crazy time, a problem, a circumstance that you don't know how to control. Your mind goes, no, I can handle this. I might not know how to handle this right now, but everything's going to turn out in my favor. It's going to be okay. Jesus has overcome everything that we're going to go into. I never forget this in June. In June, we woke up in the morning and we go into our kitchen and like our ceiling was not like crazy, but kind of a little bit caved in because there was water damage. And I was like, oh, we had a pipe burst somewhere in the upstairs, and it found its way to the kitchen. And so we woke up, we were like, hey, we have to figure something out now with this thing. This is crazy. At the same time, we had to redo our roof. And the same time, I like 2 days later, I switched the tires on our car, and I drive to work. And like 5 minutes into the drive, I have a flat tire. I can just hear it. And I'm like, oh, great. So I pull over, and I drove through a nail somewhere. I don't know where on the highway it was, but a nail went right through the top and out the sidewall. Like, that's the worst thing that happened. I was like, oh. Like, you can't repair a sidewall generally. They say, no, you got to get a whole new tire. So we had to get a whole new tire. I get the brand new tire. You buy one, and I don't know how it worked out, but similar tread line and all that kind of stuff. We put it on there, and we're back to normal. It wasn't ideal having to buy a tire. But then I come to church, okay, I MC that Sunday. I walk out to my car, and I have a flat tire again. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, who's slashing tires in this church? You know what I mean? Like, is anyone else experiencing these problems like me? Like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm talking to my wife on my phone. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to come home for lunch. And then I walk out, I'm like, oh. And she's like, what? I'm like, we have another flat tire. And she's like, are you serious? I'm like, yes, we do. I don't know where these things are coming from. But luckily, we had a spare tire, a little donut, right? You get in the back, you switch the tire, and you're back on your way. Point is, it was kind of like a little problem after a little problem after a little problem. And some people allow these things, just the tiny things in life, to overtake your entire emotional being. Your entire day sucks. The way you treat your spouse when you get home after a problem is just trash. You go through all these ups and downs of life, allowing life and your emotions to control you, not realizing that when you get back on your horse that I was riding earlier and you take the reins of your own life, you can start to direct it where you want to based on your reaction of the circumstances that you go through. Most people who own horses will tell you that if you can control the head of the horse, you can control the entire body. If the horse wants to roll with you on the back, if it dips its head, it's going down. You can't let that horse's head go down. If a horse tries to take off with you on its back, most guys will say, just turn it. Just pull one way and the horse will be forced to turn. And you'll be going in circles until you stop. But wherever you put that head, the body follows. Everything follows in line with that. And with our emotions, our life is dictated by the exact same thing. Where our mind goes, our body, our life, our belief systems, what we experience in life, it all follows. And if we don't grab our bridle back on life, get that bit in the mouth of that life and go, no, just because we're going through a circumstance that is not ideal doesn't mean that we have to feel like we're just emotionally distraught and completely down in the dumps. It's one of those things that we get to. And as I close today, I want to talk about 3 points quickly that I feel like we need to do in order to live a life where we don't allow our emotions to dictate where we're going. Because subconsciously, I bet you 80% of us at some point in our life, if not 100% of us in our life, has allowed our emotions to dictate where we go. And a lot of the time, you'll know because it's an embarrassing story of where you probably had to apologize to some people because your outburst or what you said or what you didn't mean when you were hungry or whatever it is, right? Like we've all been there and that's fine. But when we allow it to go there, we got to build off that and not realize that we can continue to get so distraught over circumstances that are not ideal that we allow our life to be dictated in the direction that we want to go. I have 3 points. Number 1, maximize versus minimize. Both of those two things are good. Okay? Maximize or minimize. It's what you do with those two things is whether you're going to live an amazing life or not. The second you go through something, you can either minimize it or you can maximize it. For those of you who have let your emotions run you, like I said, I guarantee you have subconsciously fell into the habit of maximizing every negative thing that happens to you. Every negative thing. Someone might say, yeah, I got a flat tire, and I switched it. Another person's like, I got a flat tire. And it made the whole day just terrible. I was on the side of the road, and I had to call CAA, and they came and changed the tire. And it's like, okay, it's a flat tire. Like, come on. You know what I mean? I understand emotions, and I'm not belittling emotions, so don't get mad at me in this message, please. But I'm just saying that the emotions that we feel, we can control and continue to go, yeah, we have a flat tire. That's the real part of this equation. But how I react to that flat tire is going to make this really bad or make it start going up. And that's completely up to our choice. When you maximize bad situations, when you minimize bad situations, it's like clinging on to hope. When you minimize them. When you maximize bad situations, it's clinging on to fear. Or allowing yourself to be hooked on a feeling. And I mean hooked, like a fish is hooked when you're fishing. You're not getting off that feeling until that feeling is gone and until life brings you a new circumstance that you can get out of. See, minimizing and maximizing is one of the most important things that you can do in your Christian life, depending on what you go through, because that's what's going to dictate such good memories of joy, of love. Because some of the best memories that I have, legitimately, probably right before that good memory happened, we probably had to get over something. The times that I've connected with my wife and we've gotten so close as a married couple, oftentimes was through a situation that wasn't ideal. But it was our reaction to the situation where we decided to keep going forward and keep maximizing the fact that our life is great. We love each other. We have a marriage to celebrate, to be together with. And that's what took us out of these things where we realized that God has a plan for you. And it's not to leave you on the side of the road with a flat tire. That's not his plan for you. But when you go through life and you have circumstances like that, we can react so much better than the majority of us actually do. See, our circumstances don't create or don't cause us problems. Our circumstances don't cause problems. It's our reaction to them that cause problems in our life. Number 2, stop self-sabotaging. 3 S's. Stop self-sabotaging. Man, how do I start on this? This is a very inner reflection of all of us, okay? Like, when you self-sabotage, I think every single person in this room right now does something they know they shouldn't. And you know it, okay? We do a lot of things. We have blind spots as well where we're like, we could get better, and you have friends and spouses and family members that can go, hey, you need to work on this. Like, this is a little bit ridiculous kind of thing. And if you can control that emotion, when they say that to you, you can go, I appreciate that. Like, someone's actually telling my blind spot. That's great. But on the flip side, we self-sabotage all the time. All the time. And we justify it every single time. Everyone knows you can justify anything. Anything. It's like, if I bought a new pair of shoes, it was like, I could justify it. I needed this because of this and this and this. Or sometimes we use our emotions to justify it. Then you're hooped. You know what I mean? It's like, it's retail therapy, you know? It's just like, I need to go to the mall. I'm sad. And it's like, that's okay. It's good. It's good to go have experiences and make memories. But when you attach a circumstance to an emotion and you have to do something, like an action to an emotion, it makes you always have to do this in order to cope with the emotion that you have, instead of going, hey, I can just learn to cope with this through God's word, and I can just go to the mall and shop for fun, and not have to do it because I'm sad or angry or mad, or I can go for a drive and cool down, but I can figure this all out through your own direction of your life. You have the reins of your life. Don't give them to your emotions. Otherwise, you self-sabotage all the time. See, there are decisions you make every single day that self-sabotage God's best for you. And sometimes we lie to ourselves, it's for my emotional health. And it's like, no, the best thing for your emotional health is learning how to control them. That's just how it is. Then you don't have to be controlled by every circumstance with your emotions. I know I'm hitting someone hard and I'm sorry, but not sorry at the same time, because we all go through this. I've been in the same boat, and sometimes I go through it all the time where it's like my emotions need to be redirected. My reactions need to be redirected. Number 3, know God. Oh, this is simple. Everyone drops their pens. Puts their phone down. Oh, we know that part. Yeah, you don't do it, okay? There's a difference between that. We got to know God. We got to get into his word, right? That's what we have to do. God's word is the bit, okay? It's the bridle, it's the reins, and it gives us control over our emotions. When we live by God's word, faith comes, and faith, which is knowing God, will override and neutralize any negative emotion that you have. And then we can start to experience victory in our emotions. How amazing is that? God created you a certain way, and if you don't find yourself experiencing life the way he has created you to experience it, then you need to look internally, not externally. Yes, having a clean house helps for sure. Absolutely. Yes, having a clean car can help. Yes, being organized can help. Absolutely. To make you feel like actual things you can start doing. Absolutely. But none of those things should derail you so hard that you can't control your emotions. And if they do, you need to remember to get your mind, your eyes, your focus back on what God says your life should look like, and continue down that path. Knowing God is the absolute thing that we need. Point 1 and 2 are things that we can practically do every single day, and it's important to do them. But as you maximize and minimize the situations in your life, and after you kind of do a self-reflection of self-sabotaging yourself all the time and going, I need to stop doing this, through that entire process, you should be getting to know God so your faith gets built. And you start to actually believe that Jesus conquered the world. Everything that we can experience, we don't have to experience to the depths that we experience them when we allow our reaction and our emotions to run rampant. I'll never forget one thing. I want to close with this thought. Many of you probably knew my grandpa Cam. He used to preach here all the time, early 2000s. He passed away when I was 7. And if there's one thing that guy taught me, now, I don't even think he actually physically taught me it. I think just observing his life, looking back in hindsight, you realize how people were. And he was cheerful all the time. I mean, like, if he was on stage, he could be talking about the flat tire that I just told you, and he'd be jumping around saying, praise Jesus. Like, that's just how he was. And I was like, some of us go, oh, he's way too optimistic, or that guy, way too, no, I couldn't be like that. But it was unbelievable. It was so cool. But there's one thing that I observed in his life in my short time of knowing him. And he had a Bible. And that Bible was tattered, man. Like, it was tattered. He had footnotes and little scribbles. I would not even go to say it by every verse. Like, it was unbelievable. He read his Bible. It was like you opened it and you were scared the spine was going to fall off. Like, that's how it was. But he used this thing all the time, and it was absolutely amazing. And what I started to realize and what he taught me from observing his entire life is behind every Bible that is falling apart is a person whose life isn't. And it boggled my mind. And I thought, that's the key. He went through troubles. He went through times. He went through things that were way less than ideal. But this guy had the ability to look at this and go, no, I can control these. He looked into the Bible, saw how Jesus lived their life, and you apply those principles to your life, and you realize it is unbelievable what your life could look like if you just take the reins back and stop emotionally responding and reacting to every circumstance, every problem, every speed bump that you hit on this road that we call life. Your life will be made so much better if you just get to know God. Continue to push into his word. Continue to know what his life, what he's created you to do in your life, how he's created your life to be in this abundance of joy, in this abundance of love. Yeah, you might be sad at times. Yeah, you might be angry at times. Yeah, you might have to deal with some patience every once in a while as you go down that road. Same with me, same with everyone. You get to a point where you no longer allow life's things to get you down. And you go, my life's pretty good. I don't care where you are. There's things you can be grateful for. And those things keep you going, and it makes you cling on to hope. And a confident expectation of good will change your entire life.